Mike Florio, popular co-host of Pro Football Talk Live, profootballtalk.com. Must read every single day. Keeps you up on all the things, rumors, innuendo, and, of course, real news. Mike joins us now. Mike, I want to start with a couple of topics that you have written about. One is expansion. That what's going on in St. Louis with this lawsuit with the city against Stan Kroenke taking the Rams to Los Angeles, and that it could lead to expansion. Explain to me time frame, the probability that that could happen.
Well, and here's what we have to keep in mind. First of all, the lawsuit filed by various entities in St. Louis against the NFL isn't going well for the NFL. And Stan Kroenke, who agreed in theory to be responsible for all of the costs and expenses and potential settlement or judgment, he's found some language that would maybe allow him to back away from that full responsibility so the league could be on the hook for it. So if those planets line up in a way that results in, number one, a huge verdict against the league, number two, Stan Kroenke's not individually responsible for it, that's when this idea of maybe dangling an expansion team to settle the case comes into play. And this is something that was raised with me. I wasn't even looking for anything about it. I wasn't asking about it. It was just kind of mentioned as a possibility. This is a way that Roger Goodell could solve the problem of St. Louis by offering an expansion team. Now it would have to be negotiated. Who would be the owner? What would be the expansion fee? Where would they play? But Dan, this all comes down to legalized gambling. The NFL is going to crave more inventory, more things on which people can bet, especially once the technology is in place to remove any and all lag from what's happening at the game site to what's happening on this. So you can make a bet in the 40 seconds between the end of one play and the end of the next, with nobody being behind what's actually happening at the game. The money will explode, and they can only get to 18 games if they can even get to 18 games. After that, the only way you increase inventory is to increase teams. So I think it's coming. And the quarterback play has improved to the point where you could justify more than 32 teams. So it would be St. Louis and somebody else, and they bumped to 34. And is it crazy to think it would happen within 10 years? I don't think it's crazy to think it could happen within 10 years.
Okay, St. Louis obviously would be in play. Give me the other city.
Well, if the NFL keeps going, you've got two teams that would be potentially in London, whether it's the Jaguars and an expansion team. Sorry, Jacksonville, but your owner has eyes on London. And if they're going to put two teams there, he's probably going to want to be one of them. Chicago, they get that new stadium that they're talking about at Arlington Heights, bells and whistles, third largest market in the league. And, you know, if you're going to build one of these stadiums, the more games you play in it, the more quickly you make your money back. So I've been talking for a long time about the possibility of a second team in Chicago. The other dynamic too, Dan, because I think 40 is where they're going to end up at some point, not anytime soon, but eventually they're going to get to 40. There's talk at the highest levels of the league about the wisdom of building smaller stadiums, because for that upper deck general admission, they don't make a whole lot of money off of that. And sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth. Smaller stadium means you can put teams in markets that we otherwise aren't thinking about, because it doesn't matter where the games are played. What matters is the games are being played, and anywhere you're sitting on a couch or in a bar or wherever, you can bet on what's happening in those games. Doesn't matter what city it is. We wouldn't have thought of Jacksonville as an NFL city, frankly, and I'm sorry to pile on Jacksonville, but it's like the number 44 TV market, and it's got a team. So it would not be hard, especially if they buy into this idea of building smaller, cheaper stadiums just so they have places where they can headquarter a team.
But are we talking San Antonio? Are we talking Portland, Oklahoma City?
Oklahoma City, I think, would fit. I don't know about San Antonio because it's halfway between Houston and Dallas, and I think those two teams would say, hey, don't put another team in our backyard. We want to draw those fans to our gigantic stadiums. We don't want them following a team of their own. But I think Oklahoma City makes sense. San Diego could make sense if you could find a way to pay for the stadium. Oakland would make sense. But again, in California, you got to be willing to pay for the stadium. But the smaller the stadium, it's just the money that is going to be at play as a result of gambling is staggering. I don't think we've fully gotten our arms around what it's going to mean to the NFL. But by the end of this decade, they're going to be making an extra $1 billion a year from the early stage gambling relationships that they're able to conjure. It's only going to get bigger and bigger when the in-game betting is happening coast to coast, or maybe even worldwide, where people can lock in a buck here, a buck there in the 40 seconds between the end of one play and the start of the next one.
He's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host with Chris Sims. That show precedes ours. The Mac Jones week. Not official, but it's been Mac Jones. Let's slobber all over Mac Jones here. And now you go into Atlanta tonight. I don't know how great he is, good he is, but he is in the right system or situation of all of these rookie quarterbacks. Now, I thought Trey Lance might be, but San Francisco is underachieved and Trey Lance is not ready. But is Mac Jones good, or is he good for that system that he's in with that head coach and that offensive coordinator?
I like what I've seen from Justin Fields the past couple of games more than anything I've seen from Mac Jones. But Mac Jones fits precisely with what the Patriots are trying to do. And Sims made this point earlier today. The idea that Bill Belichick is trying to recreate 2001 all over again with a young quarterback who operates within the confines of the offense, a defense that is big and strong and fast and versatile so that there's nothing you can do to them that they can't counter. You don't get them in a bad spot like the Rams the other night where, hey, we got all these pass rushers and we got a great cornerback, but you're going to run the ball down our throat. There's nothing we can do to stop you. Belichick can stop you. And also, he's got the three-headed attack at running back, and Mac Jones is doing just enough. And yeah, Mac Jones isn't a superstar, and he may never be. But would Tom Brady have been a superstar in any system but the one that he was in, at least early in his career? And so I know that there is a strong pro-Mac Jones component out there, and there's an equally strong anti-Mac Jones component. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But yeah, he landed in the perfect spot for him, and he was the perfect guy for the Patriots to have on the board at 15.
Okay, is he better than a fellow Alabama quarterback, Jalen Hurts?
Well, Jalen Hurts is really coming on. This Eagles team, you kind of write him off early and you think it's a mess, and the Eagles are going to try to find somebody else. I mean, Hurts has a different skill set. And would Hurts be successful in New England? Probably not. Would Mac Jones be successful in Philadelphia? Probably not, but they're finding a way to get the most out of Hurts, and they're focusing on the fact that they actually have running backs in Philadelphia. There was several weeks early in the season where I think they forgot that they actually employ running backs. But, I think Jones is going to have a lot more staying power because of where he is. And you look at where that team is, they're going for their fifth win in a row. They've outscored their opponents 150-50 over the last 4 games. And no one's taking them seriously. Isn't that amazing? This is the evil empire of the NFL. Yeah. And they can't stay hidden for much longer because they have the Titans next week and the Bills Monday Night Football the week after that. So we're going to find out whether or not the Patriots really are ready to compete with the best teams in the league.
Well, people don't want the Patriots back. That's why I think a lot of people, either consciously or subconsciously, are like, I don't know. Let me see. I think with that extra wild card, that's why I picked New England to be a playoff team. I thought that they would run the ball, play good defense, and then you just ask Mac Jones to kind of do what we tell you to do. And it feels like that's their blueprint and has been their blueprint.
And all you got to do is get a ticket to the table, and you've got Bill Belichick, who knows a thing or two about single elimination football. And also, I think this is one thing that hasn't sunk in for us yet collectively because we haven't seen it play out yet. With the extra game, the extra week, everything gets pushed back. Everything is a week deeper into wintertime. So outdoor games are going to be even more challenging in colder climates than they otherwise would have been. You got a greater chance of getting really bad weather. You got a team that can run the ball and play good defense. You're going to be in a position to win those games if you have to go to Buffalo or if you can get home field advantage and they have to come to you.
McLovin, what's the poll question, the NFL one for Florio?
Okay, we had a question. Is Mac Jones the best rookie quarterback or right place, right time is up on the site right now?
Okay.
I say right place, right time. I like Justin Fields, and I wish that they would have just made Justin Fields the guy from day one.
Wait, you like him more than Trevor Lawrence, than any of these guys?
I'm fascinated by the ceiling of Justin Fields.
Okay.
I really am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
How about whose career would you want? Matt Ryan, Drew Bledsoe.
Wow.
Well, this is a Paulie special. Paulie, do you want to enhance the poll question?
Drew Bledsoe has 250 career touchdowns, 45,000 yards. He does have a Super Bowl ring that Tom Brady won, but Drew Bledsoe got the team to that Super Bowl game. The rest of his career, you could say, didn't live up to things. Matt Ryan's probably going to the Hall of Fame, but he is going to be known for one of the biggest losses in sports history. I think it's fair to say.
I was at that AFC Championship game, too. I was stunned when they went back to Tom Brady. He suffered a knee injury. Bledsoe came in, got them to the Super Bowl. It was a 1-week turnaround. I was surprised by that. Paulie, do you have the career earnings? Because I think that may be the difference maker. I have a feeling Matt Ryan's kicking ass in that department.
Yeah, moving on from that one.
Yeah. But, can you think of another loss in NFL history that trumps 28-3?
No, absolutely not, because it happened in the Super Bowl. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it as it was happening. In the press box watching that game, as the Patriots kept scoring and scoring, it's like there's no way in hell. And, when Julio Jones made that circus catch on the sidelines, that felt like it's over now. The Falcons are going to win this game. They're going to get a field goal at least on this drive, and sanity has been restored to Houston and the rest of the world. And that was when, it all fell apart from there and the Patriots tied up. And it was so stunning that the Patriots won that game that we didn't make a big deal about the fact that the overtime rules continue to be flawed, that the team that wins the coin toss and scores a first drive touchdown, the other team should have a chance to match it. That wasn't even a talking point. We were so blown away by what the Patriots had accomplished.
I think if the Falcons had won the Super Bowl and the Patriots didn't get the opportunity with Tom Brady, then this might have been a bigger deal. But if I'm the NFL Network, prior to tonight's game, I take the condensed version. It's 28-3, and I pick up the condensed version from there and then analyze it. Just start at 28-3 and analyze it in real time. And I think that you could have a fascinating kind of pregame going into that game tonight.
And the thing that I keep going back to, the decision to call a pass in a spot where you're in field goal range and you get sacked, and who do you really blame that on? Do you blame it on Kyle Shanahan for calling the play? Do you blame it on Dan Quinn for not saying, whoa, we're in field goal range here? And do you put some blame on Matt Ryan for not doing what maybe a Peyton Manning would have done and said, the hell with what they're telling me on the sideline. I got a Super Bowl on the line here. I'm not going to drop back and risk getting sacked here and get knocked out of field goal range. So There's one hell of a blame game to be played when you get it down to that final moment after the Julio Jones catch on the sidelines, where it did feel like the Falcons were going to go up 11 and it was going to be over.
All they had to do, they just take 3 knees. And we would have remembered Julio Jones's catch as one of the great catches in Super Bowl history. Instead, by the way, but that catch was incredible. And it would have led to the field goal that would have put this away. I mean, you're watching this in real time, and you're going, what are they doing? There's too many geniuses in the NFL.
That was the moment that Tom Brady, too, kind of crossed over into greatest of all time, where it became imperative to go see him play while you still could, that it was like Jordan. Like, you got to say that you saw this guy play. He became something more than just a great quarterback with a bunch of rings. And look, he's still going. I would have never dreamed after that game that 4 years later, we'd still be talking about this career that has no apparent end in sight.
Man. Is there another Super Bowl that compares, another game in NFL history that compares to what happened to the Falcons?
Well, I would say the Super Bowl 49, 2 years earlier, when we had that catch by Jermaine Kearse that was shades of the helmet catch by David Tyree, that just created that sense the pendulum had shot in favor of the Seahawks and they were going to beat the Patriots. And then that lightning bolt interception by Malcolm Butler, different way that it all ended, but kind of that stunning, I can't believe what I just saw outcome.
I think if the Bills had gone on to win the Super Bowl with the Frank Reich comeback against Houston, then that might have been one of those standalone games but Buffalo went on and lost another Super Bowl. But other than that, Elway.
And the David Tyree game too, Super Bowl 42. Let's not forget about that. I mean, that was a stunner of all stunners to hold that Patriots team to 14 points and pull off the throw, the catch, the win. That to me, time causes memories like that to fade. But that was one where you just say, I cannot believe what I just saw.
And also the play that's one of the most important plays, biggest plays in NFL history, was not the final play. it led to the touchdown to Plexico Burris. But a lot of times when we have these great moments, it's like, oh, it was an unbelievable run or unbelievable catch. And the scramble by Eli, to me, is just as impressive because Mike Carey should have called in the grasp, it felt like. And he got away with it.
The touchdown, it was like, did you guys forget to cover Plexico Burris?
Well, and you got Ellis Hobbs, who's Ellis Hobbit, and he's out there. He's 5'10" on 6'5" Plexico Burris, and Eli sees that, and it's like, oh, ball game.
And let's not forget this. All apologies to Asante Samuel. He had the interception in his hands that would have prevented any of that stuff from happening.
Yes, McLevin.
What about immaculate reception or the other end of the Hail Mary? The Viking, I think it was the Vikings lost to the Cowboys. Those are two pretty rough losses.
Those are huge. Immaculate with the Steelers and the Raiders.
Steelers didn't even get to the Super Bowl that year, though. And that was weird because back in those days, you didn't get home field advantage based on your record. There was a weird rotation that they did. The undefeated Dolphins actually had to go to Pittsburgh the following week and play in Pittsburgh to get to the Super Bowl and did beat them. But there's this confusion over time that was somehow a path to their Super Bowl win. It wasn't. It happened 2 years before the first time they ever even got to a Super Bowl.
Great stuff as always. Mike, thanks for visiting, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
That's Mike Florio. He is co-host with Chris Sims, Pro Football Talk Live. You can see it on Peacock preceding our show.